Hello, and welcome to the YMCA of San Francisco's Classroom for All. My name is Justin, and today we are going to be learning how to multiply decimals. So feel free to follow along, or you can just watch and try the activity on your own later. So let's go ahead and get started. We actually have a few things to cover before we could actually multiply decimals. This is going to help us better understand how multiplying decimals work. So to begin, I want to cover what is a decimal. So a decimal is a number that is less than 1. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a number line. And I am not an artist. I know this is very crooked. So 1's going to go on this side, and 0 is going to go on that side. So a decimal exists in between 0 and 1. So in between 0 and 1, there are all these little decimals, and they all make up fractions of 1. So I drew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 little lines. Each one of these lines is going to represent a tenth. So here's 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, and so on. So a decimal is going to exist in between 1 and 0. So hopefully that makes sense. I actually want to move on to multiplying with blocks. And this is going to better help us understand what is happening to our numbers when we are multiplying by a decimal. So yeah, let me go ahead and get that up. So for example, let's do 6 times 0.5. Okay, so this is 6, let's go 6 times 1 first, and we're going to see what that looks like with blocks. So right next to it, I'm going to go ahead and draw 6 blocks. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. So basically what I did, I made 6 groups, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of 1. So we're going to count all our boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's going to equal a total of 6. So 6 times 1 equals 6. Now let's try that same thing, except let's use a decimal instead of using 1. And this is actually going to quite change our answer. So I'm going to go ahead and write our original answer up here of 6, just so we don't forget it. And now let's multiply by 0.5. Okay, so what 6 times 0.5 means, we're going to have 6 groups of 0.5. So 0.5 also equals 1/2. So I'm going to draw my 6 groups. Okay, so these are my 6 holes, but these don't equal 0.5. So I'm actually going to cut these holes in half. Okay, and we're going to shade in 1, or we're going to shade in 1/2 of each of these holes. So why I'm shading these in is because this is what represents 0.5. Okay. So what we have now, we have 6 groups of 0.5. So 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. If we add it all up, it's actually going to equal 3. So this right here is going to equal 3. Now, was multiplying by our decimal making a bigger number or a smaller number than multiplying by a whole? So whenever we multiply by a decimal, it's actually going to be a smaller, it's going to solve into a smaller number than it would be a whole number. So this will be helpful when we eventually do our problem with multiplying decimals. It'll be a good check because our number shouldn't be huge, especially when we're multiplying by just a decimal. Okay, so that's multiplying by blocks. Now let's actually get into some multiplying by decimals. This is actually easier than you think, and this conceptual stuff is just here to help you understand, but it's not always necessary to multiply our decimals. So to begin, I would like to look at our problem again. So we're going to do 6 times 0.5. So we just solved this with the blocks, and we found that it equals 3. So how can we do this without making blocks? We could actually do this just like a normal multiplication problem. So if we just put 6 over 0.5 and multiply it like a normal stacked multiplication problem, this will actually give us an answer that is correct. I'm going to show you how to do it. So 6 times 5 is going to be 30. Now 30 is way bigger than our number of 3. So how do we get from 30 to 3? We're actually going to have to count the decimals in 0.5. So to make 0.5 into a whole number, to make it into 5, we have to go back 1 decimal place. So now that is 5 times 6, and that equals 30. But since we moved back a decimal place here, we got to move forward a decimal place in our answer, and that'll give us our answer of 3. Perfect. Okay, now that we've done that, let's go on to a little more tricky problem. Oh no, this was a permanent marker. Okay, we'll work around that. Okay, let's continue on. We're going to do 2.75 times 3. Okay, so just like the last problem, we're going to put it into a stacked multiplication form. This is going to help us multiply it. So just like any other multiplication problem, we're just going to stack it up just like that. Okay, and now we just multiply as if this decimal does not exist. So 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 7 is 21, plus 1 is 22. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. Okay, perfect. But now if we look at this, do we think that 2.75 times 3 should equal 825? No, that number seems way too big. So what we actually need to do is count our decimals. So if we look at 2.75, we want to make this into a whole number. So we're going to count the decimals it takes to make it a whole number. And I'm going to use my blue one because it is not a permanent marker. Okay, so we go back 1, 2. So that means in our answer, we have to go forward 1, 2. So our answer is going to be 8.25. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to do one more problem, and I think we're going to call it after that. So yeah, let's go ahead. For our last problem, we're going to be doing a decimal times a decimal. So 1.65 times 102. Yes. Okay. So as you can see here, I did not line up the decimals. You do not need to line up the decimals when you're multiplying. That is only for addition and subtraction. If you actually do line up the decimals, you will get a different answer. But yeah, so 1.65 times 102, I put it into the stacked multiplication form, and now we're just going to multiply as if the decimals don't exist. So 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Perfect. Okay, add 0. 0, 0, 0. 0 times 5 is 0. 0 times 6 is 0. 0 times 1 is 0. So that's 3 zeros. Same thing. 0, 0, 0. 1, 2, 3. And finally, 1 times 5. Oh, let me add my zeros first. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 1 is 1. And then we're going to add it up. Okay. 0, 0, 0, 0. It's going to be 0. 3, 0, 0, 0. 3, 3, 0, 0, 0. Also 3. 0, 0, 5. Just 5. 0, 6 is 6. And nothing and 1. There we go. And you should be able to see that. I'm actually going to write it back up here just so we can see. So we have an answer of 16, 5, 3, 3, 0. Okay, so once again, this is a huge number, but we haven't counted our decimal places yet. So let's count those, and we can actually calculate our correct answer. So to make 1.65 into a whole number, I need to count back 2 decimal places, so 1, 2. And to make 102 a whole number, I have to count back 1 decimal place, so 1. So that is 1, 2, 3, 3 in total. So we're going to go to our answer and count forward 1, 2, and 3. So our answer is going to be 165.33. So I think we're going to call it there for today. So thank you so much for joining me in multiplying decimals. please join us at ymca.org/classroomsforall for more fun classes, and I'll see you soon.
Did you know that YMCA of San Francisco never closed? When shelter-in-place happened, we could no longer provide in-person programming. We quickly shifted to provide youth and family programming virtually. As early as April, we started providing on-demand activities in our YMCA of San Francisco YouTube channel.
For this video, we're going to be making a geodesic dome.
Today, we're going to be making a hovercraft. The science around this activity is really awesome.
In addition, we have a regular schedule of activities for our youth and families to join live. We feature read-alouds, yoga, family Zumba, arts and crafts, drawing clubs, and more. So don't miss out on our virtual youth and family offerings. Visit www.ymcasf.org for more info and class schedules.